Baltimore Ravens once again won the 2024 NFL draft, something that they're very used to and is a big reason, DP, where they're consistently at the top. In the 2023 season, they were the 1 seed entering the playoffs, but they came up short. So I have to ask myself, right, we look at this 2024 NFL draft class, was it enough for them now to get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl? But I want to talk not about the offensive side of the football, because I know that's where everybody thinks we're going to go first. We're going to talk about their first round pick, cornerback from Clemson, Mr. 429 himself, I believe, Nate Wiggins. And we're going to talk about that and then pair that with cornerback from Iowa State, TJ Tampa. They was able to address some positional needs. I want to get your initial take on how you feel about both of those picks, being able to insert them into this Baltimore defense and then being able to help.
I like both picks, you know what I mean, especially with the athleticism of Nate Wiggins, a guy that can play press man at the line of scrimmage, but also drop off in the zone. He has really good ball skills and instincts in terms of triggering from distance, reading route concepts. But I love what adding TJ Tampa just gives you more depth in the room. They like to move Marlon Humphrey around, take him from outside, throw him into the nickel. You have Brandon Stevens, who's one of the more underrated cornerbacks in the NFL. But the part that I think is and that we need to discuss is, what does it do for Kyle Hamilton? Kyle Hamilton, they lost Geno Stone because they were run 3 safety sets in 2023. Geno Stone left in free agency. So now Kyle Hamilton may have to go back into that kind of strong safety role, kind of rover, robber technique, rolling down out of too high. And when you have so many other corners that can play in the nickel, play outside, it frees him up to just be a playmaker now, where he doesn't have to worry about, if Jamar Chase is in the nickel, I got to get him. If Tyreek Hill's in the nickel, I got to handle him. If Travis Kelce's in the nickel, no, he can only worry about whatever they need him to worry about. I think these other cornerbacks, bringing those guys in with high athleticism, ball skills, coverage ability, they really improved this secondary, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you talked about the safety position, right? Now I look at cornerback from Iowa State, TJ Tampa, them bringing him in. He's a physical guy. He's a big guy. I wonder if they're going to kick him to safety at times, right? And be versatile with him, and then he'll add depth at safety, right? And also add depth at corner. So I think they look at him as potentially a movement piece along this defense. And I'll say this, if I trust an organization to be able to do it correctly, I trust the Baltimore Ravens. Look what they did with Kyle Hamilton, right? They sat there, Kyle Hamilton was playing deep all the time. We was like, uh-oh, did we just miss on this draft pick? And you say, you know what? We're going to put our best player in the best position to make plays, and they kicked him down and they put him in the right spot. But listen, let's continue to talk about it. We talk about Adisa Isaac, right, from Penn State. I like this selection because they've been trying to find that right edge rusher to develop, right? The old day off ways. Justin Matabuke, obviously they hit on that, right? But then David Ojabo, they took a swing at him a couple years ago, hasn't necessarily panned out. I like Adisa Isaac because I think he has the right amount of it's there, right? And he's talking about he's a collision football player, but also he's a guy that has some development parts that you can pull out of. And once again, I trust the defensive line coach over there. Worked with him at LSU, Coach Dennis Johnson, very detailed in what he does, and he's a motivating guy. So I expect him to be able to pull some things out of Adisa Isaac.
Absolutely. I remember the quote from star offensive tackle from Penn State, Olu Fashanu, at this NFL Scouting Combine. And guys, he said, listen, Chop Robinson got me used to speed because that's what he brought. He said, Adisa taught me to be prepared for anything. Speed to power, outside rush, inside rush, multiple hand counters. And like you said, I think for them, they're so good at having multiple defensive end style guys, edge rushers who are physical at the point of attack. Adisa probably walks in with just fresh legs in the games as a DPR for them if they don't need him to play, 80% of the snaps defensively right away. Giving that guy fresh legs, fourth quarter, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15, these tackles are going to hate that, Keith. So I really like what they've been able to do to not only help the secondary, but also help that front end.
There we go. Hey, defense wins championships, right? But offense sell tickets, and we're trying to sell some tickets, DP. So we're going to talk about their offensive selections, right? We're going to start in round 2. They went the tackle from Washington, Roger Rosengarten, right? And this is a guy that should be immediately plug-and-play guy at right tackle. How do you feel about Roger?
No, I really like Roger, man. I mean, Troy Fautanu was the basically the star of that offensive line for Washington, and they had so many stars on that team, on the offensive side of the ball. People didn't really give Roger Rosengarten much of a look until the Senior Bowl. We saw him play, 100% momentum through and through, where he went from right to left tackle and showed he could play both sides. Trading away Morgan Moses in the offseason, I believe to the New York Jets, created that void at right tackle. You wonder, okay, well, it's going to be Daniel Falele, who they drafted a couple years ago, the big mountain of a man. Now bringing some competition. Roger Rosengarten has quick feet. He's got good functional strength. He can protect the inside rush, the outside rush. He's going to be able to get to his spots in his drop and synchronize that to the drop of Lamar Jackson. And I feel like he's going to be a long-term starter for them, opposite of Ronnie Stanley. Now they have two. Ronnie Stanley's been in the league a little bit, but you don't have Morgan Moses is kind of up there in age. Now you got a young guy that could also help, and he works in that zone game as well, especially bringing in King Henry in their run game. They're going to run a lot of zone, get him going. I think this pick is going to be kind of a steal for this offensive line.
Yeah, we'll round this thing out, right? And we're going to talk about the wide receiver core for the Baltimore Ravens. There has been a very in-depth conversation over the past 3, 4, 5 years since Lamar Jackson has been there. I think last year was the best wide receiver core he had. Now this year they went to North Carolina. They got the speedster, right? The vertical threat. They got the big time playmaker in Tez Walker. I view this as this. They got Derrick Henry at the running back, right? It's going to be play action and it's going to be take deep shots with Tez Walker. Do you think that that's the case study for the Baltimore Ravens?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, you have one of the best backfields when you incorporate Lamar Jackson's ability. So now when Derrick Henry when they're in the mesh point, Keith, those defenders' eyes are panned forward, even the corners. They're like, I have to be on alert at all times because if he does hand this off, I got to run support and close in from an angle. If he keeps it and attacks the edges, now I have to tackle one of the hardest or most difficult quarterbacks to tackle in space in Lamar Jackson. Then you get the play action, the RPO game. And when you get the run game going, you start getting those levers start to pull, that safety walks down. Now you got isolated one-on-ones. And Tez Walker, being a sub 4.4 guy, 100% gives Lamar Jackson that deep threat. And he meshes well with Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, guys who do a little bit of everything. I think putting him in that specialist role would be great for this offense.
Yeah, I think about also, we're talking about Lamar Jackson scrambling around the pocket, right, moving. Defense is starting to put their eyes on him.
Yes.
The Tez Walker is one of those guys that when everything starts to break down, he can go vertical, right? And then now he's wide open by himself, or even just having a foot, like just one step on a safety can turn into a touchdown for Lamar.
Especially with Mark Andrews commanding all that attention in the middle of the field.
Right there.
There's going to be ample opportunity for this young man.
Yeah, definitely. So he's another key. It could be a key piece, right? Especially talking about the playoffs. It comes down to just moments and situations. Let's look at this Baltimore Ravens situation holistically, right? What they did in the 2024 NFL draft class, is this now enough, right? Because few franchises, when you make it to the AFC Championship and come up close, it's a disappointment. But the Baltimore Ravens have raised the bar consistently to where they are Super Bowl caliber franchise year in and year out. So I want to ask you this: is this team currently constructed, when you add in these rookies, is this team ready to take the next step with the Super Bowl appearance and a Super Bowl win?
The next step is beating Patrick Mahomes. And remember that game back in January? They were close all game. It was a tightly played game, and it was a fumble at the goal line. It just was some things, the ball didn't bounce their way. I think adding these pieces in a second year with offensive coordinator Todd Monken, who kind of called that game like a rookie in a sense, tight pressure moment, he called it tight. Now, with that experience, I think they absolutely are within range to take the AFC from the king, which has been Patrick Mahomes.
Yep. Well, let's talk about the draft grade. We talked about this class right from top to bottom. We talked about the picks that we really like. We talked about how they apply to this current roster of the Baltimore Ravens. What draft grade are we giving the Baltimore Ravens?
Give them a good B+, Keith. You know what I mean? They did well, hitting on not just needs, but guys that can come in right away and play. Roger Rosengarten can play right tackle right away. Nate Wiggins can walk in and be one of your top 3 corners right out the gate. TJ Tampa, like you said, the size, the versatility of playing a big outside corner or maybe even a safety. They did a good job addressing these, getting a potential DPR guy in Adisa Isaac. I like what they've done.
Yeah, the Baltimore Ravens, they are a draft network type of organization. Why? Because they simply draft good players. So we gave them a B+ over here, and we believe that the Baltimore Ravens are right there on the brink of making a Super Bowl.